Do you know someone, or have you struggled with suicidal thoughts? Suicide is a devastating tragedy that leaves lasting scars on families, friends, and communities.
It sure does. It's a complex issue with no easy answers, but by talking openly about it, we can raise awareness and hopefully prevent future tragedies.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome back to the Joy Without Justification podcast. We are your one-stop shop for finding peace, purpose, and presence. No explanation is needed. I'm your host, Denny.
And I'm Dan. Today's topic is a difficult but crucial one: suicide prevention and the profound impact it has on those left behind.
Yeah, first, let's acknowledge that suicidal thoughts and feelings are more common than we might think. I mean, they can be caused by various factors like depression, anxiety, trauma, feelings of hopelessness.
It's important to remember that suicide is not a weakness. It's a desperate cry for help, and the person struggling is likely experiencing immense emotional pain.
So what about the effect of loved ones? The loss of someone to suicide, it is a common kind of grief. Survivors can often experience a complex mix of emotions, including shock, guilt, anger, and sometimes profound sadness.
Yeah, it's that feeling of what if, and it can be, very overwhelming. Survivors, they often question, what could they have done? How could they have done something different? And it's hard to read those signs, so this is what we're hoping to get out of this podcast today.
Yeah. So it's a crucial understanding that suicide is not the fault of any of the loved ones left behind. Often there is no single cause, and preventing suicide can be incredibly challenging. So, Dan, let's go a little on this. I mean, you and I, when this script was being discussed and brought up and everything, you and I, we've had a lot of times in our past that have been difficult. I mean, we've even brought that up a few times in previous podcasts. So, we aren't living even still our best life.
Oh, no. No.
But even in those times when, you were scraping to make it to your next paycheck, was there ever a moment when you felt like offing it?
Oh, yeah. All? Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. When I was probably about 16, I tried to commit suicide. I swallowed a bunch of pills, and, idiot me, it made it worse because I just woke up. I just fell asleep for a couple hours, and I woke up and I was like, damn, I can't even do this right. And I make light of it now, but
I don't want to laugh about that. That's not funny, but
I think, growing up in the deeply religious environment that I did, and struggling with my sexuality, and, being ostracized because of the church that we were in, it led me to just wanting to off myself. And then different times in my life, I've never tried it after that. And maybe it was that fear of hell. I don't know. But I've often just prayed that God would just kill me, just take my life. So yes, I struggled with depression on that level, that I have wanted to die and tempted it once.
And it's probably something not a lot of people who go through either anxiety, depression, or anything like that contemplate. I mean, I myself, like I said, we both have had past where things were rough and hard. So there's probably people like me that handle those kind of situations differently. But for people that, like you had, where they're dealing with, whether it's their sexuality, whatever.
I think for me, it was definitely a self-worth issue. I was always made to feel that I didn't have any worth at all. So, and then the church preys on you in that way, in a sense that in and of yourself, you're garbage, and if you make the slightest inconvenient mistake, that you're garbage again. So I think for me, it was just a self-worth issue, definitely.
Yeah.
It wasn't so much life pressure as it was, I felt I had no value.
So what sort of advice would you give someone that may be dealing with what you went through?
Well,
so that they don't get that urge.
I tried very hard not to do the signs that people tend to do, because I really wanted to be gone. I just really wanted to be gone. I did not want to be caught. I wanted to be gone, and I remember learning that oftentimes people in that situation, they go through a period of like almost being very cheery, and then they start giving away stuff, almost as if to say, hey, I want you to have this. It's their way of kind of leaving things to people, I guess. I was very careful not to do those things. And of course I was 16, but I didn't have anything to give away per se. But I don't know. I think it's very hard, because I think a lot of people that go through this internalize everything they're feeling. That's why it's so hard to know. I think what we got to do is just make sure that we're always, for sure, that positive influence. Make sure that if you see any kind of changes in anybody, you don't have to go prying, but you just got to be available. It is definitely a hard topic, but there's some things here.
Now, do you think that, like you said, you were looking for, you were doing it out of a lack of self-worth, feeling of self-worth. Do you think then that, like, let's take a parent nowadays that maybe is over smothering their child to make them feel like they have some sort of worth? Do you feel like that's any good thing, or is that,
no,
or is that even making the situation probably
no?
worse?
I think it just makes you totally dependent on your folks, and then when, and I had an aunt like this actually, so when my grandparents died, she became very reckless. I mean, and it's actually kind of suggests that she may have done herself off intentionally, but she did die of an overdose because Grandma and Grandpa did everything for her.
And even that reckless living, that could almost be like a form of suicide. Because sometimes that kind of lifestyle does get a little dangerous.
Sure it does. Yeah, and it could be. I think it depends on your intent.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let's talk about some key things to keep in mind. What should we do?
Well, if you know, or you yourself are struggling, take some time and take a lot of what people tell you seriously. I mean, don't dismiss their feelings for you.
Right.
I mean, if you're doing this out of a lack of, like Dan was saying, self-worth, a feeling of self-worth, let people close to you, and not these toxic people that are making you feel this way. Start hanging around people more that are like wanting to help you, people that care for you, love you, and really want you around.
Well, I'd say to anybody that's feeling that way, please just reach out and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
For me, I think the easiest thing would be calling like a suicide hotline. You're talking to a stranger. And sometimes that's easier. Sometimes that's just easier to get things off your chest.
It is.
But definitely talk to somebody. Definitely before you would even consider doing anything to yourself, please reach out and talk to somebody.
It is. And I will even go back to the last podcast we did back in February on narcissism, where I put some sources in there for people to call or contact when they were feeling like needing help.
Yeah.
So I will put that back in there.
Yeah. And I think, if you're the person in their life or you suspect or whatever, make sure that you actively listen. And sometimes we hear, but we don't listen, if that makes sense. Listen to the symbolic language, if you will. Encourage them to talk about what they're going through, especially if you know someone who, is internalizing a lot of pain. Just be there for them. I think for me, the worst thing you could have done to me was just try to pry it out of me, because that would make me clam up all the more. But be available and be listening. Listen without judgment, I guess is the way.
Yeah, but sometimes you gotta take that direct approach and not be afraid to ask.
Well, no, but when
I'm noticing you are different. Are you feeling okay? You're not having any thoughts of planning to offer?
Well,
yourself,
I think number one, and this cracks me up with healthcare, because we, have to ask that all the time. Most people probably aren't going to go, yep, I sure am, because, we know what's going to happen when you admit that to a healthcare professional.
Yeah.
Also,
have to sit for the rest of the night
also, if you are a person like me that didn't feel that you had any value, someone coming at you with force isn't going to me, it wouldn't have drug it out of me. To me, I would have thought they're judging me and they think I'm different. And therefore, I'm just going to keep them to myself, because people like me that had no self-worth did not want to be singled out to be different. So I think be careful how you approach them, be available, but, don't, you're going to go to hell if you do that, or those kinds of things. Just simply, to me, make it worse.
No, I'm not. I don't think I'm trying to come across with jumping on them like that.
But that's how people will perceive it.
But, if it's somebody that really cares for you or whatever, comes up to you and says, hey, I'm starting to notice things are a little different with you. Are you having any thoughts that you're planning on killing yourself or anything? Because I do care for you. I do worry about you. Somebody that really does care for you asking you, if you lie and hide that from them, that's going to hurt.
Well, but the people that are experiencing those feelings probably feel like they actually feel like they would be better off gone. So I think that's part of the problem, Yeah. But anyway, listen actively.
All right. And remember, reaching out for help is not a sign of weakness. It's a sign of strength. And
yeah, there's a lot of resources available for people struggling with suicidal thoughts. And we will include some helpful links in our episode description.
And Dan, before we go any further, we're running a little short on time. How about we continue this in the next episode? Please tune in for the next episode when we will continue our discussion on suicide. Till then, peace out.